The Swamp is a politically themed social negotiation game where players take the role of a political party trying to pass laws in the issues that it cares about. The Swamp can be played with 3 to 6 players, and it takes 45 to 60 minutes to play. The player wins the game when they pass 3 laws in each of the issues of their political party. So for the party We the Person, they have to pass 3 laws in healthcare, 3 laws in the environment, and 3 laws in the economy to win the game. The game takes place in 2 different phases, the election and the legislative session. During the election, players buy politicians and politics cards, which then, during the legislative session, they use the politicians to control the outcomes of votes, and they use the politics cards to manipulate other parties and their politicians. A central aspect of the Swamp is that players have unique but overlapping win conditions. So for the party We the Person, they share with Bootstrappers United the goal of passing laws for healthcare, and with the Whig Party, the goal of passing laws for the economy. Players are naturally pushed to compromise, to negotiate, to work together, but ultimately to try to outmaneuver one another, because only one party can take power in the Swamp. At the start of the game, 12 independent politicians are played face down, a random public mood is played, the appropriate number of coalitions are put out, and a random player is chosen to start as speaker. Each player is given a random political party. They're given 2 ballot cards to indicate how they vote, a bill which can be used each legislative session, and 2 random politicians. Each politician has issues that they approve of and issues that they disapprove of, which can be interacted with by politics cards. The game begins with the election. At the start of every election, each player takes 2 politics cards, they gain $300,000, and they refresh their bill. Starting with the speaker, each player takes a turn, and on their turn, they can do 3 things. They can spend $200,000 to buy an independent politician, they can spend $300,000 to steal a politician from another player, or they can spend $100,000 to buy a politics card. Politics cards come in 3 major kinds. Legislation can be played during a legislative session, amendments are played before votes, and reactions are played after votes. Once each player has taken a turn, buying as much or as little as they want to, the election ends and the legislative session begins. At the start of every legislative session, the speaker begins with control of the floor. Only one player may control the floor, and they may play 1 piece of legislation, either a politics card, their bill, or the coalition card. Once they resolve their legislation, they must yield the floor by saying, "I yield the floor." Then, any player may say, "I take the floor," to take control of the floor and play a piece of legislation. This continues with players taking and yielding the floor until every player has spent their bill. Then the legislative session ends and the election begins again. But something that will happen many times in every legislative session is votes will be called on issues to try to pass laws in them, either from politics cards or from players using their bill. When a player calls a vote, they choose an issue that they're trying to pass a law for. Then, the vote takes place in 5 steps. First, players may play any amendment cards. Then, there's the ballot, where each player chooses how their party is voting, either in favor or against the law. After everyone has revealed their ballot, any reaction may be played, many of which will manipulate how parties and individual politicians are voting. After all reactions are played, players tally the votes, with politicians voting according to how the party voted. If a majority of individual politicians are in favor of the law passes, and the player who called the vote becomes the speaker. But parties are always accountable to the public, and if a law is passed, the public mood must be checked. If the public approves of the law that was passed, then every player who voted aye gets $200,000. But if the public disapproves, then the public displeasure advances 1. And if this happens 3 times, there will be a backlash that punishes the most powerful political parties. We know that the speaker begins at the start of each election in each legislative session, but the speaker has another important role to play. The speaker will break all ties. So in a vote, if there's an equal number of politicians in favor and against the vote, it is the Speaker who determines whether or not the law is passed. Also, if during the legislative session 2 players try to take the floor at the same time, it is the Speaker who decides who will take the floor. Finally, if 2 players win the game at the same time, it is the player who's the Speaker who will win the game. You win the game if you pass 3 laws in each of the issues that your party cares about. But there's an alternative win condition. In 4 to 6 player games, there are coalition cards available, which is special legislation accessible to all players. If you play a coalition card, you ask another party to form a coalition. If they consent, you entirely replace your win condition with that other player winning the game. The benefit of this is it allows players who have fallen far behind in the game, or for whom it's literally impossible to win, to still be competitive in the game. But they must pay a penalty. They recall 3 of their politicians, and they permanently lose their bill. And that's the Swamp. As a social game, it's hard to fully communicate the dynamics that evolve with each group of players, how they negotiate with one another, how they manipulate one another to eventually win. But it's a game that I think has unique mechanics and a theme that makes it stand out in the marketplace. Players being the actual parties working with one another, and its political theme being especially relevant with the 2020 US presidential election coming up, and increased public interest in politics. I hope that I've given you enough information about the Swamp to evaluate if you want to know more. I have a prototype, and the game's been widely playtested with multiple blind playtests, so I'm happy to provide you a copy if you're interested in experiencing it yourself. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.